Okay, we got a light crowd tonight, so we'll have some stragglers coming in, so we'll get started here. I don't have any major updates on any activities or projects or anything. I do ask you, if you guys are having trouble with Round Rock Refuse coming through and throwing your trash cans every which way but where they were when they dump them, let me know, because I'm on a warpath against Round Rock Refuge right now. Because they're just getting to where they dump the trash and they throw the can however they want, and they tip the trash over and trash falls out, they're just leaving it lay there and looking to it. So if any of you have that issue, send me a picture, take a picture of it and send it to me. Because I have a direct line in there now, and I'm working on solving that problem. No updates on the silent crossings, nothing's changed. You guys see all the construction going on in 620. They're working on all the utility stuff over toward 35 to start that project before long. No updates on the two dams at this point in time. Hopefully by next month we'll have a little bit more of an update on it. But there's some things going on in the next 30 days we think will give us some progress on it. Any questions on anything before we turn it over? Yes, ma'am.
What's National Night Out?
October, it's the first Tuesday in October. What's the date? October 3rd. October 3rd, first Tuesday in October.
Okay.
Yes, and did you guys get the volunteer sign-up sheet? Okay, because I got to send that out again, because we need a bunch of volunteers for that. Anything else? Any other questions? Yes, sir.
And kids may need it on Sunday is the Cuts for Kids, where they'll have the free haircuts for kids.
Oh, that's right.
Free haircuts, backpacks full of school supplies, there'll be hot
By the
dogs.
police department, or?
You name it, by the police department.
And that's where, up at the police
No,
department?
they're gonna do it at Hernandez Middle School,
Oh, okay, over
from
the
10 o'clock till 3 on Sunday.
Okay, over on the tire, by the other side of Stony Point.
Yep.
Or this side of Stony Point, so. Okay, anything else? Okay, we have you know us as a neighborhood, we have the groups that we support financially throughout the year. We donate to the church here for them allowing us to use the facility. We've gotten where we give some significant amounts to Round Rock High School, Chisholm Trail Middle School, and Depot Elementary, and they're very appreciative of that. In fact, if you've driven by Chisholm Trail lately, you see the new little sign up on the front. It looks great, and that our money helped pay for that, so they were very appreciative of that. But there's a lot more goes on in our community, and every day we're hammered by people, donate to this, donate to that, this golf tournament, that golf tournament, this bowling tournament, this. There's hundreds of people all trying to give our money for their good causes. Some of them are better than others, but I try to focus on the ones that we know really make a big impact. And we're going to have a manicure with, you're like with 5 different things. Anyway, so Texas Baptist Children's Home, sorry. Children Heart Ministries, that's it. And let her talk to us in a little bit. And we also have Larry Terrell, who is outstanding in his field. Wait, no, they found you standing out there. That's right. No, Larry's lived in our neighborhood forever. I think he was here when they carved the Round Rock, I'm not sure. Larry has a children's grief ministry called Footprints that he works with. So I thought we'd give them a little bit of time tonight to talk about what they do. We're going to take this information tonight. I'm going to send it out to those that didn't make it to the meeting tonight, to our email address, and post it on our pages and so forth, so people can get an idea, and hopefully these groups can get some volunteers and contributions and so forth from our neighborhood. So I'm going to turn it over to Larry first, and then we'll let Amanda talk, and I'm sorry. Hannah. This is Hannah. She's with one of those groups. I'm old now, I can claim, anyways, then she'll talk, and then we'll hang around and answer any questions that you guys might have afterwards. So Larry, go ahead and take it away.
Well, like you said, my name's Larry Terrell, and when I go into this, you're going to find out that our group has crossed paths with START, Texas Baptist Children's Home, for the last 4 or 5 years. It's a wonderful organization. We're very fortunate to have them. Also, they see somebody over here that helped me when I was in the emergency room. And I just want to know how much I appreciate that. You volunteer with my wife, Charlene. And there again, that is another organization that goes beyond what the church was, made my stay a little bit better. heard of Footprints or know anything about us at all? Okay, then you're gonna get the full dose, okay? That's the fact here. Footprints is a 501c3 nonprofit. That means we've got bills. That means we have to pay bills. The purpose of Footprints Children's Grief Ministry is to serve children dealing with grief in a faith-based environment that is safe and accepting of all emotions, and to help the child identify and begin to understand and deal with the emotions regarding that loss. Now, that loss now is either through divorce or death. And I'm going to skip around a little bit here and go directly into that. The first of the year, the YMCA, we have been at probably almost every one of their events that they have. We have a booth out there, we're passing out stickers to the kids and answering questions. And they came to us at the first of the year, would you develop or would you do a pilot program for divorce? Now, we have been trained in that, but we were advised to not do it because you're going to be inundated because you don't have enough people. And it might be looking like that's the case. We filled the class in 2 weeks going through that. We did the pilot course, the very first one, and as a pilot course, we did make mistakes that I could see. You know, we want it all perfect. But the parents all fill out their evaluation with glowing remarks. And I got 2 special letters from dads that went through our course. And if you want me to, I can read excerpts from those letters if you'd like later. But that was probably means more to me than anything else, is to know that Dad, like he told me, it's been 2 months since your course. And because of Footprints, I now can talk to my son. And he can talk to me about our true emotions, what we're going through. And he said, I just want to thank you for that. And now we can go forward. So anyway, I mentioned we do a lot of stuff with START. The name Footprints was chosen because at the very start of the class, and throughout the classes, each activity encourages the children to talk about their emotions and to build on that thing that you are not alone. Okay, the reason I brought that up is because we interview parents before we accept them into our program. We have a mental health person, one of them works with her, that helps us interview these parents to make sure that they do not need counseling or therapy. Because, hey, Footprints does not do counseling or therapy. We're just there to help the parents and the children to get over a crisis in their life. If they do need counseling or therapy, we refer them to START. And START has referred children and parents to us because they didn't think they needed counseling or therapy. So we kind of work hand in hand in a lot of ways. With that said, one of the things that we did, we worked the first 2 years of determining how we do our business. We wanted, first of all, it to be safe, not only for the children and the parents, but safe for our volunteers as well. And because of our due diligence in that, our lawyer said we have no more liability than a vacation Bible school. And that helps us with our insurance, even though it's still a third of our budget. We have no paid persons. Everybody with Footprints as of today are all volunteers. So every nickel that we get goes to the children or to what helps it run. Talking about the classes now. All sessions are conducted in accord with an open door, safe sanctuary, child protection policies. Complete confidentiality will be honored at all times regarding all discussions. Confidentiality is one of our most important things that help the children feel comfortable to share and to be safe, and to be honest about how they were feeling. Remember I mentioned the dad? Now the child can talk to his dad. Now the child can open up and express his true feelings to his dad without either one of them getting mad or getting angry. You know, like the old days when I was a kid and I was having a difficult time, my parents always said, you shouldn't feel that way. Well, the way we look at it, every emotion is okay. We just need to know how to deal with it. And that includes anger. Getting parents involved is a huge healing and is a huge key in the child's success. And I explained a little bit about that, so I'm not going to read this part of it. But I will say one thing that I feel very fortunate is that in Partnership Association, we are with Big Brothers, Big Sisters, we're on their websites. The Kiwanis Club, Flag It Back, the YMCA Chaska. When we did that pilot course for them, first of the year, it was so successful, we have our brochures, our banners, our plaques at every one of their sites. And they are promoting Footprints now. And we're on their website and they're on ours. Round Rock Area Serving Center, Greater Round Rock Community Foundation, Round Rock ISD. By the way, we did get confirmed that we are now accepted by Round Rock ISD. That's quite a feat. Leander ISD is coming on board and Georgetown is as well. The area churches, now how do we do this since we have no volunteers and since we don't own anything? I never want to own anything. Here's how we do it. The YMCA allows us to have classes at the YMCA. That means we don't have to pay for facilities. And there's 5 area churches in the area here that have given us facilities to where we can have our classes there. That allows us to spend all of the money we bring in on what we do. Is there any questions at this time? Okay. I'll just briefly run through, that was a little bit of the history. The purpose of the program is to allow the child to be in an environment that is safe and nurturing and accepting of all emotions, to be with other children who are similar in age to share intense emotions associated with grief. To experience laughter and fun without feeling guilty for being a normal child. When you were young, how many of you have lost a parent or lost a loved one when you were a child? How many? How many adults came and said, what can I do for you? Okay? I remember very distinctly when I was a child, and I had a psychiatrist come and train us. Just had to do a suicide, just actually had to do a suicide. And he said, okay, and this is true. He said, if you go to a wake or you go to somebody's house who has passed away, the children are usually outside or over there in the corner playing with whatever they have. The parents are being helped by other people that are adults. But what these children do that a lot of parents and adults don't know is that they're very astute to body language. They listen to every conversation on the telephone. They listen to the voice, how mom and dad or how people are reacting to this. The children know what's going on, whether you talk to them or not. And that is what we do, is try to get the adults and the kids all connected, where they can talk about this as a family. Here's another thing. is we teach awareness of the different stages of grief. A lot of kids don't know why they're angry. They don't know why they're fearful. Identify the different emotions they are feeling and put names on them such as anger, fear, guilt, loneliness, and sadness. Games to the children express their emotion through visual presentations. I'll give you a good example of that. We have a board game. It is a Monopoly game. The kids roll the dice and go to a square. Instead of Monopoly, and you're going to buy a castle or something like that, there's a question there. There's a question. And ideally, we have 8 children around this table, and 1 child or 2 children are playing. And one of the questions that I think is really huge, one of the questions is, what would you like to have said to your loved one, but you didn't have a chance? Boy, does that bring in some conversation. Now, we as facilitators, we don't lead it, we don't encourage it, we just let the children go with it. And when the children in a group setting start talking about their feelings, they start realizing, I'm not alone because you feel the same way I do. You're going through the same thing I am. I'm very angry, and here's why. And that's what happens. And that is how, well really, that's the whole program. Every activity we have starts very, very low, and it builds up. And after 10 weeks, and that's just 1 hour a day, 1 day a week, for 10 weeks. And you think, well, that's not much. Well, it's amazing the conversations that start. Not only starts there at our program, but also starts at home. I've got more, but the thing is, if you have questions.
I got a question.
Yes.
Do the kids, I think I've seen this at our church, right? You must use our church, because I've seen something like this that goes several weeks, because when Bible study's going on, other stuff's going on. So, and it's several weeks. Do you put the parents in different rooms?
Oh, yes, the parents are definitely, I'm glad you mentioned that. Remember I said confidentiality? We want the kids to feel completely free to express their every emotion that they have. The parents are in a separate room. What the parents go through is this. Every activity we got has got spelled out the purpose of this activity and the goals. That's what we're trying to achieve. That's what we've taken to the parents' class, is to tell them what their children are doing. Not what they've said, not how they said it. They know nothing about what the children are doing. They just know what that session is for. Then when they go home, if the child brings it up, they'll have some kind of an idea on what we've been doing, and they can work with their own child. And so that's the way that works.
But do they talk to the parents? Like, is there organized stuff for the parents
Yes.
to do?
Yes.
While the kids are...
No, the only thing we do, have you ever heard of Stephen Ministers?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a Stephen minister, and really that's how I got into this thing. The first half of the class is going over with the parents on what that class, the kids are doing, what the purpose and goals are. The second part of that class is for the adults to talk about their own issues. And we have staff, the parents class with Stephen ministers. They go through our training too, but the Stephen ministers they do a fantastic job because we cheated. They're already trained.
Let me share real quick what Stephen ministers do.
Yeah.
Okay, a Stephen minister. Stephen ministers. They're trained for about 50 hours or 6 months, so many hours a week. And they are trained specifically in listening skills, how to listen. There's a lot to listen. I mean, that's a full course. They're trained in listening skills and they're trained in confidentiality. What you can say and what you can't say. You know, or the adults do. And we help the pastors in these churches. We are assigned to people, adults, who are going through a crisis of any kind. I've got my specialties. But we are assigned a person that needs to see a minister because they're going through the last issue. And it could be divorce, it could be death, it could be health, it could be anything along those lines. So that's what a Stephen minister is. They're just well trained to work with adults.
Yeah, I just wanted to get those in the room that might not be aware of what a Stephen minister does. So.
Well, I'm glad you did that. I just assumed everybody knew what.
That's right.
Stephen minister. Well, that's just about it. I could talk forever, but I think you...
What I thought we'll do is then let Amanda talk for a little bit, and then y'all can hang out and ask specific questions. So, and a little bit more. So Larry and his wife, they volunteered in no end, and for the years that I've known them, many years, they've volunteered. Every time you turn around, they're volunteering doing something. Amanda and her cohorts are the younger generation of this community. They're the future leaders of this community. I can't go to an event anywhere in this town that I don't see her. So she's got her fingers in pies, and I don't know how she handles it. She's just amazing. She contributes a lot to this community, and so I'm excited about her and the group of young people that we have out there that are learning to be leaders in this community now to take us forward because we might really be bold.
I've got to add this. They got energy.
I know. No kidding. Yeah, no, so I'm excited about that. I'm excited for two reasons. Number one, somebody has to step in and take the torch and run with it, because those of us that have been there, oh, what a segue. Which, by the way, we are not going to be having a January meeting this coming year. We're going to take one quarter. We don't have November, December. We're in January, because our neighborhood association needs a serious recruiting effort to give that man a break more than anybody. And Don and some of the others that have been running around doing all the hard work of this association for years and years. So we're going to be focusing on nothing but recruiting some younger volunteers from this neighborhood who have the energy, so that this guy's not running around a national line out in 100-degree weather hauling ice chests and everything else. So we're going to be doing that. That's why I'm excited. We have Amanda and her group at
Young.
Ascend. There's an Ascend. We had a leadership round rock, okay, which was pretty much for anybody. Then they got tired of the old farts, so they started Ascend. So all the young people could do. You couldn't be over like 30 to be in Ascend, okay? And there's the younger group, and there is an age. But to come up through leadership programs with the city and learn about the city and everything that goes on with the city and the community and the hospitals and the schools and medical and governmental and so forth. And she's been through that. You've been, what, 2 years in the city? Are you still in it? Or?
I can give an update on that.
Why don't you talk a little bit about that, because that's important, because to understand that there's a younger group of dynamic people coming up through the ranks that we can be excited about in this community. But anyway, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much. And for this opportunity, I am very excited because I live in Dove Creek, and we are just, maybe some term could be resurrecting our neighborhood association, and I have just had such an admiration for your community and for your neighborhood for years. So I was very excited when Mike gave me the opportunity to come and get to visit you guys, because we're hoping to be following closely in the tracks of the great community work that you guys do. Speaking of community work, I'm happy to start there. In fact that it was about 8 years ago that I found myself in a business women's luncheon, and the city manager at the time was sharing about the city's dependence on the Dell sales tax. And as it went, she opened it up for question and answer, but really to kind of say, does anybody have any ideas of how we might diversify? And that, I didn't have the answer right then, but I had recently remembered an Austin Business Journal article that had talked about how communities that had an engaged young professional population had great results and all these key metrics about median household income and different things like that. So I set out to write up a proposal of a young professional development program. And at the same time, Ryan Farrell had similar ideas, and I had no idea who Ryan was at the time. But Tom Hansky, who was the chair of the CEO of the chamber, suggested we have breakfast. And over that time, it was incredible that we both kind of wanted something more than what I called the fishbowl of young professional networking. Nobody has a network, but everybody comes together for after hours and circulates, but not much good comes of it. So what we decided was we would have a class, small in size, of about 15, to really identify a pipeline of leadership for the future of the community. And so what we had seen was there were incredible people who had been leading the path for so long, and we wanted to carry that and make sure as a growing community and as people are coming in so quickly that we didn't lose our roots. And so what I love is Ascend is now in its 8th year, going into its 9th year. It's recruiting. Participants are allowed to stay in it for up to 3 years, and they, over that time, have mentors. We help make the relationships, and we set goals in 3 areas: personal, professional, and community, to make sure that if they decide whether to serve in the PTA, serve in their neighborhood association, or to run for city council, as some of ours have chosen to do, and also in school board, as some of ours have chosen to do, that they are prepared for leadership. And so we look for all people ages 21 to 39 to come and be a part of this and to bring together a very diverse group. That can,
39, not 30.
yeah.
They all live the same to us.
But it's been a wonderful opportunity to be a part of so many outstanding young professionals' journey and to be a part of that process for helping them be all that they should be for this community. But going back into history a little bit, my connection with the Texas Baptist Children's Home and Children at Heart Ministries goes back 27 years. It was actually back in 1990 when I, at 5 years old, lived at the Children's Home with my parents who served as staff. And it was at that age that was very impressionable, and we were there for maybe a short period of time, maybe a year and a half, but it forever impacted me. And I remember, even in college, going, someday I'm going to work at the Children's Home. That's what I want to do. But I thought maybe I'd be a Christian counselor, or I didn't know quite my path. And then the opportunity came into a similar role to what I'm in now. I've been through a couple of different roles now in my 9 years with the organization. But it is a blessing and an honor to get to work with some of the best people in the world, trying to make the changes and difference for children and families that are in need. So actually also my grandparents worked for the Children's Home and were relief house parents and worked in the commissary, so I'm glad to be the 3rd generation in my family to be associated with this wonderful organization that started in 1950. So as Mike alluded to, we have created a little bit of a branding nightmare for ourselves. So you may have heard of Texas Baptist Children's Home, you may have heard of Starry, you may have even heard of Children at Heart Ministries. I hope that by the end of tonight, there will be a little more clarity with that. I will start with Children at Heart Ministries. It's a name that may be familiar. You see it on a sign that as you're driving north on Mays, it's that 2-story building. Children at Heart Ministries is really that family of ministries of who we are. They provide the back office, communications, solutions, IT, support, and overhead needs, so that the Children's Home and Starry and Miracle Farm and Gracewood, our agencies serving children and families, can operate on less than a 12% overhead, and oftentimes less than that. So we have amazing staff that do that, and so if you talk about Children at Heart Ministries, usually they're talking about all of the whole thing. So here in Round Rock, you have the Texas Baptist Children's Home, and you have Starry. So I'll talk about those last because they're the ones that probably are a little bit most familiar. The ones that you may not be as familiar about is Gracewood, which is down in Houston, and it serves single mothers and a campus there. And they are currently expanding and going through a capital project, and it's very exciting, the work that they're doing to serve the single mother population down in Houston. Out towards Brenham is our 325-acre Working Boys Ranch, where we combine an equine therapy program with year-round school that's part days, and we are really able to help young men who maybe were kind of going off of a beaten path or struggling in some sense, find that sense of respect and really have a chance of a lifetime. So it's very exciting what those young men are doing out there as they build that relationship, that trust with a horse. They're able to convey it back to relationships with family or parents. So that's what we're doing out near Brenham. Here locally, let me talk a little bit about Starry first, and I'll pass out our Starry brochure so you know a little bit more about that. Starry originated as a program of the Texas Baptist Children's Home and became its own nonprofit many moons ago, but people still may not be as familiar with it as its Texas Baptist Children's Home. Starry is doing amazing work, and you will be so impressed to know and hear that Starry, when I first started with the organization, was serving Williamson County with free counseling for families that are in crisis. Starry is now up to 32 counties in Texas, providing that counseling, that free counseling for families that are going through struggles like divorce or children who are just kind of having a hard time. We also have amazing foster care program with Starry. Starry has 65 foster care parents in the area. They also have up to 85 children right now in care in the foster program. And they have foster to adopt and direct adoptions. And I am so honored to know the people who have actually had their forever family changed because they were able to have access to Starry. And now they have a beautiful little girl named Jewel. So, last year, in 2016, they provided 31,000 hours of counseling for these families that are in crisis. They served over 15,000 kids and families in crisis that year as well. They have a new military program for families, especially in the Killeen area. It's for current, discharged, and even honorably discharged that's not on the military record. And so they're serving that out of the Killeen office. What I think is amazing is in those 32 counties, we have 8 offices, but we have 68 satellite offices, meaning churches like this or different places that we can go, especially into the rural parts of Texas where these sorts of services do not exist. We are able to take the light of hope into those dark places, and it's really exciting. I know there's been times when I've spoken to other groups in Round Rock and somebody comes up to me, and these are, it's not an us and them, it's any one of us that may have a point of need where counseling can make a difference in our lives. And I think that that's the incredible thing, that it really empowers these families to see a dramatic change for their families and for their future. So I'll talk a little bit more about the Children's Home, and that's who I primarily relate to. I will say, if you want more information about Starry, we do have tours on a very regular basis, and I have my counterpart, Elizabeth Gibson's cards here, and we'll be happy to provide her contact information as well to Mike in a future email, just in case you would like to go and see a tour a little bit more of Starry. Now, Texas Baptist Children's Home, we are embracing, empowering, and equipping families, children, and single mothers in need in order to have a promising future. It is very exciting, the work that is being done there, and having had a history of that. Thank you, Hannah. My Hannah Vanna. The Children's Home has been a part of our community for 67 years. Our biggest challenge right now is that people who have known us think they still know exactly who we are today. People say, I drive by there every day, but I never really know what you do. And I also have a sense that Round Rock is growing immensely, and not everybody passes the corner of 79 and Mays to even know that there's 112 acres there serving the needs of children and families. So let me share a little bit about the work that we're doing there today, because I know I'm excited about it, but I'm really excited about it because in the last 18 months, the executive director has come back. She came to us originally in 86, and she served as a mom in the cottages with our single moms and was helping them to be a coach, to be a cheerleader, to be what they needed in order to grow. So since 1986, she's been with our organization. For 9 years, she went and really helped lead the charge at Gracewood, and in the last 18 months, she's been back with us, and it has been amazing ever since she's been back. Our counseling programs are thriving. It started all across Children's Heart Ministries. We employ trauma-informed care. And we really partner with like Texas Christian University, where we understand that people who go through trauma actually have their brain is impacted by the cortisol release that is there. And if it's there long enough, it actually can deteriorate the brain. The synapses can actually rewire. And so people who have gone through trauma have a hard time kind of getting, and that's why maybe sometimes you see the cyclical trauma, the crisis. And what's great about trauma-informed care is that in the way that we interact with our clients, the way that we position them for success, they are able to receive permanent healing. It's not just a Band-Aid, it's not just a solution for that moment. It is permanent healing for our clients, and they really are so equipped to thrive. We have one of the examples I have is we have stuffed animals that are weighted. And those weighted stuffed animals help with, as children kind of get really worked up and maybe they have some anger issues, and maybe they live in one of our programs that they just, are so hard to self-regulate. They can have that stuffed animal that's been weighted, and it kind of brings that sense of calm. So at the Children's Home currently, we have 2 programs. We have the original Campus Life program that did in 1950 serve as an orphanage. We at that time had 22 children per cottage. Today you'll find 6 to 8. And we still employ a house mom and a house pop, a loving couple, that their full-time job is to be parents to these children. I'd say the top reasons why kids would be placed with us right now would be grandparents raising grandchildren, and they lack the means and the resources to be able to do that. And the second one I would say is a term that some would call failed adoptions, where a child was adopted into a family and maybe that family lacked the resources or ability or patience in any case to handle the child, and they are placed with us. It's private placements at the Texas Baptist Children's Home. We do have a no-pay contract with the state that we can take in children from CPS, but a majority of our kids are privately placed there. I would say average length of stay right now is about 9 months, 18 months, but I will say that in May we had 3 young men graduate from high school, and cumulatively they had been at the Children's Home for 28 years. So they grew up with us. It's home for them. And so we're excited. 2 of those boys are heading to Hardin-Simmons University on scholarship. The other one is living in an independent living program. And what we have on campus is called an independent living program. You may be familiar with kids in foster care. Hey, when you're 18, you're out. We understand that our kids, because of the trauma they've gone through, lack maybe a couple of years, maybe in education or maybe in maturity, and we really need that opportunity. Like some kids would stay home for a couple of years to go to ACC or pursue those other kind of trade schools or things like that. So they need the same case management as our moms as they work to kind of reach independence as a young adult. We also serve, and a lot of people don't know this, single mothers. We have up to 45 single mothers and 90 children living at the Children's Home. And this is especially impactful for me, as my dad's mom was a single mom of 5 boys. And I wonder sometimes where she could have been, where my dad could have been, and where our family could have been had she had these resources to really help her through those times. So it's exciting to see these families, and these moms are with us for a variety of reasons too. I have this wonderful young lady who shares her testimony, her story, and she has her children, and she was living with her grandmother. Her grandmother got dementia, and it became unsafe for her and her children to stay there. She couldn't support her children on her own. Her grandmother went to assisted living, and then she quickly found herself unable to care for the bills and be able to provide for her children. So she's one of our moms right now at the Children's Home. Our moms and our kids are encouraged to consider education. So most of our moms have, they set goals in 11 different areas. There is accountability. We have a wait list of sometimes up to 40 families waiting to get into the program. And so we have moms who are what we call motivated moms. They want to get out of the crisis. They want to get the skills and the resources they need. And we have a family life coordinator who relates to each cottage, and she is that coach, that cheerleader, that person that's pushing them on, who meets with them every 2 weeks to say, how are we doing in finance? How are we doing in education? And they set those 11 different goals. So it's exciting to see our moms are flourishing, their children are protected and safe. I love the story with one of our, it's actually my colleague now, but it was several years ago, about 20, that she was in an abusive situation herself. And she and her husband owned a well-known restaurant here in Round Rock, and the embarrassment of the abuse kept her from leaving. But it got to the point where her children's lives were at stake, and she determined it was time to go. So she came to the children's home, and she humbly says, I was on every system of government assistance, and it was so humbling. But little by little, she worked the program, she got off of the government assistance, and she went and she was able to live a life for her family. But little by little, she felt a calling to come back. And she talked to Debbie about it, and she said, I think you really can do it. So it was funny that when we started expanding and we opened up all those cottages on the back of campus, the one that came available, the opportunity, was that one right on the corner of Bowman. It was the cottage she had lived in before. And so when she comes to explain to her children, who are now a bit older, 8 or so, we're going to go back to the children's home. They said, well, what are you going to be doing there? Well, I'm going to be helping families through that are going through a crisis and having a hard time. And they turned and looked at her and said, Mom, we didn't know you were having a hard time. We just thought it was a fun place to live. And that's what the children's home does. We provide shelter for children. We provide them a childhood. We just had a coworker that was talking today, and one of our girls, she's a CPS placement right now. She's going back to her family, and she cried. She cried the whole time for having to go back. She said, this is home now. I was actually able to be a child. And so that is what brings Hannah and I joy every day to go to work, to feel like we are serving these families. As I mentioned earlier, that we do have tours. We actually kicked off a brand new tour of the children's home on January. It's called The Heart of the Home. And in this tour, we anticipated maybe having a goal of doing 20 this year and maybe 2 a month-ish, and maybe 230 people would come out. And I am so excited and thrilled to say that God is moving. We're thrilled. We've had, how many tours now? 38, 39? And over 500 people have come out. And it's word of mouth invitation. We do not solicit this. We have people come to a tour. I call and I say, what did you think? Is there a way I can get you involved? Or would you like to be involved? And how can I help with that? Or would you like to invite some friends to a tour? So it's all been word of mouth, inviting other people to the tour. And everybody has found this very worthwhile. And we've had more ambassadors bringing guests out than we can keep up with. And it's just an honor and a blessing to feel like we can connect our community. We are doing relevant things. And most importantly, we want to make sure that the community knows what we're doing. Because somewhere there's a child in a dark place. There's a mom at the end of her rope. There's a mom like Tatsu. I'll share this with you. Tatsu's from Japan, and she had a broken relationship and found herself couch surfing. And she didn't have credit history. She didn't have. Do you mind passing those out as well so people can kind of see the picture? She didn't have a way to secure an apartment of her own, and she had 2 little boys, and she was 4 months pregnant. And she went to the local resource pregnancy center and was trying to consider what her options were. She was very distressed, but did not see how she could have her child, because if she took off to care for her child, then she wouldn't continue to be able to work and thus not be able to provide for her children, and she would lose her children. And so the local resources pointed her to us, and we met with her and talked about what the program was like and what we would expect from her. And we said that you and the baby can stay. And she just was relieved. And so grateful. And she is doing so well now, and we're so thankful for the people that partner with the children's home, because this is the second story I've heard in 6 months of a mom who was being forced to consider abortion, who didn't want that, but had no alternatives in her mind. And we now have sweet, beautiful babies on the campus of the children's home. And this little boy has the curliest hair. It is so precious. I see him in the lobby here and there. But that's thanks to our community who has supported us, to have come alongside us, because this is real life change and these are real lives at stake. So I appreciate you guys so much for the opportunity to share that sleepy little corner isn't sleepy anymore. And that there's a lot of exciting things that are there, and there's awesome ways to get involved. And on our website, you can click volunteer, and what we do is we actually list the current volunteer opportunities. So you just go on, you browse what's there, and you say sign up. And you can get connected right away with some of the needs, like maybe if you want to do a drive, like a peanut butter and jelly drive, or a cereal drive, or you want to make a meal for a cottage so that the house parents can have a night off of cooking. And there's lots of different opportunities. I encourage you to check out the website for that. Are there any questions? Oh, yes, Star.
Do they have daycare then for the moms for?
No, our moms do not have daycare on campus. The question was if we had daycare on campus. We definitely connect our moms to the local resources, because what we want is the moms to not become dependent on us. We want to really encourage that independence, and that when they leave us, they're not losing that foundation that they've now set up. So we definitely connect with the community resources. We have amazing partnerships, just as Larry mentioned, with Footprints, with Chaska YMCA, so many organizations that help make us what we do possible. So it's been wonderful.
I volunteered at the Roanoke Serving Center, and I sent your mother over there last week. But, I didn't even really know where to send her. I suppose, where your office is there.
Yes.
She was going to go right over there. She was living with a sister who didn't really have room for her and the baby. So
That is exactly the stories we hear.
yeah, but I'm concerned because you have a waiting list. So
Well, and let me explain a little bit about that waiting list, because as she was sharing, and I didn't know if others had heard, she works and volunteers at the Round Rock Area Serving Center, and had a young mom, or a woman there that is a mom, that was needing some resources, and she sent her over to the children's home. We have a wait list. The wait list is based on necessity. If mom and her kids are in the car, they go right up to the top of the list. So if it's a dire situation, health and security are at risk, we definitely move them up that list. Our mom's typical length of stay is about 18 months, 9 to 18 months, but it depends on what educational programs they're pursuing. So we have several that are pursuing nursing. We have a wonderful lady that came to us. She didn't even have her GED, and now she's moving on towards her accounting degree and hopes to be a CPA. And what she says is she wants to be in a position where she can give back at some point. She doesn't want to just be financially secure so she doesn't have to worry about it anymore. She wants to be in a position to give back, because that's what she sees at the children's home.
Thanks so much. Can you guys see why I'm excited? There's a whole truckload of her out there, of people that are out there to lead this community. But think about it for a minute. There's those of us that are like old, and then you have the generation coming up. But what are they focusing on? The next generation, the children. And I think the children of today's world need more help than a lot of children in the past have. Just because of all the distractions and everything that we have in society now that we didn't used to have. And it's organizations like this that's going to help prop them up and bring them up to be leaders years down the road. But please consider not only these organizations, but other organizations. If you got time to give, please do. It's important. And thank you guys so much. And God, we appreciate what you do so much. And Larry, it's amazing what you do. I know this has been your puppy for a long time, and you've done an amazing job with it. So thank you guys so much. We can hang out and ask questions if you guys want. The group before us left a bunch of food back there, so come on.
But they left.
Finders keepers, you know. So.
Not the church, not the church.
But thank you all so much for coming out, and come to the next meeting and bring a friend. So appreciate it. Thank you.